This is a bit older, but back in 2014, I was a studying wildlife biologist specializing in amphibian research. I had spent many years around that time wading through swamps in the southeast part of the States, documenting different species and population densities. What I'm about to share is something that happened to me on one of those research trips that still confounds me to this day. Now, I will say, being a biologist/scientist, I have always approached supernatural things with skepticism. I believe most have some kind of a rational explanation. Misidentified known animals, environmental changes or illnesses that cause creatures and wildlife and even plants to adapt to survive, and the rest I just held on to them being good old-fashioned tall tales. And when it comes to swamps especially, you were bound to hear some kind of legend about them at any time they were brought up. Anyway, on this particular trip, we had a research team of 5 people that consisted of 2 graduate students. It was myself and a girl named Stacy, one of our professors and mentors named Jerry, and a local guide named Calvin, who knew the area like the back of his hand. We were there to survey a potential new species of salamander, and I was pretty stoked for it. Obviously, I love marine biology, but salamanders were one of my favorite little guys to study, and the ones that we were after were primarily nocturnal, so we would be doing this at night. The first 2 nights passed uneventfully. We collected some specimens, took some water samples, and recorded a lot of data. We even found some time to have fun with it all too. And Calvin was a hoot and showed us different plants and the different uses that they had. He told us stories of things that he and his little brother did as kids in similar swamps, and we all laughed and enjoyed the time together. But on our 3rd night, things started to change. We went deeper in the swamp than we had ventured previously, hoping to have better chances at seeing these salamanders. The water was darker there, almost black, by the high concentration of tannins from the vegetation in the water decomposing, and the massive trees lining the swamp only made it that much more intimidating. Being out there in the dark, surrounded by those trees, it can really put in perspective how small you really are in our vast world. That is why I love what I do. It was probably around 2 a.m. when we had to split into 2 pairs to cover more ground. I was with Calvin, and Stacy went with Jerry. We were probably about 50 yards apart in different channels, but still within earshot of each other. Calvin and I were standing in waist-deep water, headlamps on, scanning the surface for movement, when I noticed it became unnaturally quiet in the swamps. There is literally always noise, whether it be frogs calling, insects chirping, or maybe even the occasional splash of fish or turtles. But suddenly, there was nothing except the soft sound of water moving around us as we moved. I had stopped moving when I noticed it, and shortly after I stopped, Calvin did the same. After looking both ways and behind him, he groaned and said, "Nah, something ain't right." He scanned the waters with his flashlight quickly, but also with a determination. That is when we heard it. A strange vocalization that I struggle to describe accurately. It wasn't the hiss of an alligator or a snapper or the call of any amphibian that I've ever heard of personally or read about or studied. The closest comparison I've ever come to, and this is with the help of others that were out there that night, was of a rusty door hinge slowly being opened. But at the same time it was a lot deeper, maybe slowed down, with a vibrato quality that seemed to resonate through the water itself. I could literally feel it through my boots and waders in my feet when I heard it. I immediately looked at Calvin. He was familiar with this area. Surely he would know, or at least make me feel more comfortable with the situation. But looking over at him, he had frozen in place. I tried asking what that was, and he slowly shook his head and demanded that we get back to the boat at once, his voice very serious and tight. Before I could react, we heard splashing from the direction of Stacy and Jerry, followed by Stacy screaming. We immediately started towards them, struggling to get through the thick mud. When we rounded a bend in the channel, we saw both of them scrambling to get back toward us, their headlamps on, but Jerry was completely wet and covered in mud. Jerry started saying something about feeling something on his leg, but stopped mid-sentence as a massive displacement of water surged from behind him. It was as if something large had submerged suddenly, but what could it have been? Unfortunately, in a swamp, there were a few possibilities, and none of them were good for us. Calvin and I helped the other 2 across, Jerry being a little frazzled, and Stacy a smaller and now terrified woman, and we all got back into our small research boat. Once aboard, Stacy and Jerry began explaining what happened. Stacy said that she saw a dark shape moving through the water, but became very nervous by the size. This isn't the first time I had done something like this with Stacy. She wasn't the type to be nervous about getting in knee-deep swamp waters. She was, however, concerned by the size of whatever was below the surface. Her first thought was an alligator, but she said the movement pattern was all wrong. Gators create a distinctive wake when swimming, and she said the way the shape submerged, with the precision that it did not match either. Jerry also mentioned that the shape was far too elongated, especially where the neck would be, and the movements were too fluid, almost serpentine in motion. Stacy also said that when the light caught it briefly, she could make out what looked like ridges or plates running down its back. I asked them if it could possibly have been an alligator gar, which can get pretty big and have armored scales, but Jerry shook his head no, saying that it moved wrong, that it was way too fluid. But then he also explained why Stacy screamed, and why he was covered in mud. While they were looking around, Jerry said he felt something grab onto his leg, explaining how it felt just like a hand. Said it felt like individual fingers wrapping around his leg, and then the hand that was wrapped around his leg tried to pull it forward, causing him to fall and startling Stacy. With all of us confused and, to be frank, a little disturbed, we decided to end the night's research early and return to our field station. I was still fairly new to this kind of stuff, but seeing Jerry and Calvin obviously on edge made the whole thing way worse. I remember Calvin using the boat spotlight, sweeping it across the water behind us, clearly looking or watching for something. I asked him, since he was from the area, if he had any suggestions on what they could have seen, and he shook his head and just didn't say anything for the rest of the ride. He didn't need to say anything because the look on his face spoke volumes to me. The next morning, we went back out there to check on our equipment, when I discovered that one of our underwater field cameras, which we had left recording overnight in the area, was now missing. What is worse was that the cable that had it secured to the tree had been severed. That cable was stainless steel. It wasn't frayed or broken, but cut cleanly, like with a sharp object. When I brought this information back to the others, Jerry had a look of confusion, where Calvin was not having it whatsoever. He started talking about how there were all kinds of rumors about the swamps out there, and how that there was something living in them that's been there for years. I myself was curious, especially with what we had experienced the night before. He said that his father had witnessed something similar when he was younger, and so did his nephew, saying he actually got a part of it on camera. He described what the thing looked like when he saw it rise from the waters. He said that it was bigger than a fishing boat, serpentine in shape with a very long body, but when the front half breached the water, it had very thick plates across its back and long arms. Imagine a snake with thick scales like a turtle, but much larger, and give that snake arms. If I heard this from anyone else, I would think it was someone describing something that a child had drawn. It sounded comical, but the look on Calvin's eyes told me that he was not messing around. This was real, and this was something he witnessed. Stacy was already on edge, but Calvin wanted nothing to do with the area that we were in. He suggested some other areas of the swamp, and after Jerry being grabbed, I think he was just as willing to move on. We moved our research area to a different part of the swamp, and we actually had better results. There was no issue with the sound of the swamp disappearing, and no unsettling vibes either. I don't know if it was related or not, but there was a divide where the water was cut off, basically splitting it into two parts. Maybe whatever that thing was can't completely breach the water, and therefore only sticks to that side. I've tried to do a lot of research on what that thing could have been. I looked up uncommon and rare sightings of creatures in those same swamps, but nothing matches the description or even the size of the thing. I'm sharing this with you because I have had people completely seriously tell me that it could have been some kind of lizard man, but it wasn't even human shaped. The closest thing to a human was that it had arms, but the size was massive and it had matching scales or plates to match. To this day, it is still something that confounds me on a scientific level, but the sheer size of it, and the fact that it pulled Jerry under, makes me think that this thing was not happy with us being there, and that we were quite clearly inferior compared to it. These are the things that remind me of just how much is out there that we don't know about, that we don't see or don't understand. Chilean UFO incident. Hey bros, a bit paranoid these past days because of some coincidences and passings on my circle. People gone missing, and I guess I'm just gonna let it out here with the hope that anyone picks it up. To give some context, I'm Chilean, and I am very sorry if I have some bad grammar, but it is what it is. A few years ago, I did my military service here and saw some weird shit that to this day, I have not been able to explain. Along with that, some of the people I did my time with there went missing or appeared dead, and they were directly related to the happenings of that night. After that, we all had to sign some documents legally declaring that we weren't exposed to any dangerous material or any harm psychologically or physically to us. It was around October 2018. I was stationed along the Bolivian border along with other conscript soldiers. Our routines consisted of patrols and catching a few Bolivian mules here and there and handing them to the police. We slept in a small open complex consisting of 2 buildings that belonged to a failed mining operation and some 12 containers piled and welded together to have a semi-functional barracks/general purpose building. We could see a few Aymara villages to the distance, but nothing more. The night of the incident, we just came back around 10 to 11 p.m. We got handed over some MREs and told to dine on that. While we got ready to sleep, I caught a funny smell. If any of you had a tube TV and ever played with the static near your face, that is the smell. Or if you have an ozone machine, that is the same. It was a weird electric smell, nonetheless, and having a few traumas with electric discharges, I went and suited up to check up on the fuse box that was just a few paces away. I woke up the duty and told him. He jokingly said, "Don't let the Martians catch you." That was some big foreshadowing. While outside it got warmer. The Atacama Desert is cold at night, and the electric smell got stronger. Out of nowhere and over in the mountains, I started to see what I thought were flashlights. I thought that they were flashlights, moving here and there. Maybe some idiot got lost, and there was a search party that we were not notified of. I thought nothing of it and went back inside without skipping a pace, as I really got uneasy with the electrical smell. Soon as I came back in, I saw the duty in full gear, and my mates putting their bunks against the windows and shutting them all with locks. I asked what the fuck was going on. I did not want this to happen to you guys, but I guess you were just unlucky. I didn't understand what he meant, but out of the door, I saw the rest of the people that were in the base just bunkering up where they could. I thought maybe a war broke out, or it's a drill. Asked my duty what to do, and he just told me, lock the door, put anything you can against any and all exits. Do not look outside, and if you fucking see anything creeping in, you shoot it. That sent chills down my spine, and just went into automatic mode, and started doing whatever everyone else was. I jumped in my gear, and loaded the full magazines, as we had a couple with blanks and mixed. We didn't have state-of-the-art rifles, just SIGs, so we are all cornered, and aimed at the only door in the barracks room, some maybe 15 rifles at it, while all of the windows started to shake, and the lights went off. We could see small dim lights just outside, while the smell got stronger to the point of stinging our noses, and the air went hot and heavy. I was really shitting myself and didn't know what to do. This went on the whole night. I don't remember much after this, as a couple of hours after we just packed up and hightailed it back to the city, knowing that there would be another unit shortly moving in. Soon as we got to the unit at the closest city, we spoke with some of the older soldiers, and the only thing that they told us was, don't tell anyone. Even if you do, they won't believe you, and that's an advantage. Couple days ago, some 3 guys from my unit that were there went missing, and 2 appeared dead from unknown causes. 1 has not appeared, and last time I hung over with them, most were convinced of just breaching the waiver, or whatever the papers called that they gave to us, the NDA, and telling the press and the TV. I don't know if anything will happen to me for sharing it here. Haven't ever shared it outside my comrades from the army, but just want to make sure that someone else knows, just in case. Be me. Be in 2006, 12 years old. I am with my mom, walking back home after going to my cousin's birthday party. It's about 11 p.m. and the sky is covered by clouds, so it is very dark. We are walking near a park, which we walk through as a shortcut, but it is not lit, and I was nervous to walk there. In the middle of the park there is a section with playground equipment for children. I kept looking at that part, I don't know why, and just kept looking as I walked. I saw something go up the slide, a small figure, no more than 3 feet tall. I told my mother to turn around and look. Surprisingly, she caught a glimpse of what was on top of the slide. It was a dog, brown in color. I've never been good at identifying breeds, so I can't tell exactly what it was. It was at the top of the slide, standing on its hind legs. It was turned around, looking at the ladder used to go up the slide. My mom and I stood there watching for quite a while. It was super strange, and the most shocking thing was to see another dog go up the ladder. I don't know how he did it, but the other dog made it up, and after that, they both slid down. When they came down, the dogs ran off with only their hind legs. My mother grabbed me by the hand and pulled me as we were running back to the house. This experience really fucked me up. Not because it was too scary, but because I didn't know what to think about animals and their behavior. And over the years, I have become more interested in the subject and have asked almost everyone I know if they have experienced something similar. This experience was told to me by a friend from college. She says at least 3 other people can tell me this is true. It is the most recent one I have. Be me, be my friend, be 2016. I'm in high school, chatting with some friends in class. The teacher didn't show up and we have a free hour. We go out to buy something since the high school is near a 7-Eleven and we are allowed to go out of the building to buy stuff. Before arriving at the 7-Eleven, we see a cat in the middle of the street. It was meowing very loudly and had its hair standing on end. We don't want it to scratch us, so we wait for a while, but the cat does not move, so we decide to go around it slowly. I go ahead of the group, and when I approach the cat, I hear it say something to me. Stay away, don't come closer. I froze. My friends had to pull me back, they heard it too. We ran away and the cat just stood there. After about 20 meters, the cat ran into the yard of a house and disappeared. What happened next was the scariest thing. That same day, there was a robbery that ended in 1 person dead and 2 injured. Apparently, a junkie from the area came to the 7-Eleven and started threatening employees. He wanted them to give him money from the cash registers. He went crazy when he saw that one of the employees was walking down the aisles behind him and attacked him. This happened a few minutes after we went out to the shop, and most likely, we would have run into the guy if the cat had not stopped us. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the story so far. If you do and you want to hear more, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel and leave a comment down below, as it lets the algorithm know that you like my content and it promotes it to more people. My goal for the channel is to hit 50,000 subscribers, and we're closing in fast, so thank you, and back to the stories. Don't really believe in ghosts or whatever, but I had some weird shit happen in my preteen years at this old Colonial Era house that we lived in a small town called Newmanstown, Pennsylvania. The door to the attic was in my room. Our first night there, I heard what sounded like metal rods fall over at the foot of the basement stairs and against the door. Kinda freaked me out, but figured maybe it was just gravity. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs. I was maybe 9 or 10. I remember hiding under the covers and trying to scream to my mom and my dad, who were watching TV downstairs, but I was so freaking scared that no sound would come out. Then the attic door opened and I heard feet limping across my room, past my bed. Then they stopped at the foot of my bed for a second, before shuffling away towards my parents' room, which faced the foot of my bed. I eventually got a scream out and jumped out of bed, running downstairs to tell them. When my dad checked the attic door, there was a bunch of metal rods that had fallen over that weren't there when we did the tour of the house. Leftovers from the cleanup crew or whatever was there before us. Things got weirder. Eventually, my room was moved to a different room that was still being renovated when we moved in. When the wallpaper was taken off, there was handwriting on the walls. 1760 something, it rained all day, among other things. Once I moved to that room, I started getting sleep paralysis and having awful dreams. I dreamt that there was a graveyard of demon skulls buried under the house. I dreamt that my mom was murdering locals and hiding their bodies in the attic. I would dream about being locked in secret rooms hidden in the walls. Once, our bathroom light came on in the middle of the night. My mom yelled at me for turning it on. From under my blankets, I yelled that I was still in bed and it wasn't me. Got up, turned the light off, went to bed. The light turned on. My mom yelled, thinking I was goofing around. I'd later hear her saying things when she thought I wasn't around. She would tell my dad about the feeling like someone was in their room watching her sleep, or she would feel like she was being followed in the house. I once had something pull on my shirt while taking a laundry basket to my parents' room. It was such a distinct tug that my first thought wasn't ghost, but rather that my shirt got caught on the corner of something. But when I turned around, I was too far away from anything that would have snagged my shirt. But probably one of the weirdest occurrences was when I was still staying in the middle room by my parents' room when we first moved in. The door had one of those old-timey locks, kind of like pick-related. It was the second and last night I'd ever heard noises from the attic. I was so scared, but my parents were kind of sick of my nonsense ghost stories about the house, so I just stayed quiet and hoped that the sounds would stop. Luckily, my dad got up for a drink of water. The noises stopped just a second or two before I heard him get up. He walked past my bed and out of the bedroom door, closing it behind him. Since I was still scared to be alone, I decided to get out of bed and go and get a drink to shake my nerves off. When I went to open the door, it was locked. Weird, because it can only lock from the inside, and you really have to give the locking switch a lot of force because the metal was so rough and worn. We lived in that house for years, and I would always try and get that door to lock from the outside and never could. Lots of weird stories about that house. Waking up to my bed shaking, voices, multiple cats we owned at separate times, being obsessed with a certain area of the wall at the bottom of the main floor stairs. Super creepy basement with a weird back room full of old newspapers from the 1800s. That house was the only time I ever experienced paranormal shit. This event took place in late 2017 near Winter Park, Colorado, at a family friend's cabin. The cabin is in a fairly remote place with few houses around. My family had spent the day sledding and came back to the cabin in the early evening. My parents and their friends were playing board games downstairs, while my 3 siblings and their 2 friends were upstairs playing. So, at some point, my mom notices that my younger sister is not playing with the rest of the kids and asks my other sister where she is. She said that she had gone into her room to listen to music, so my mother thought nothing of it. An hour or so goes by and my mom still has not heard or seen my sister, which was unusual, as she generally would not pass up on time to play with her friends. So my mom checks the room to find that she was not there. Immediately, my mom goes into a panic and starts screaming her name. Everyone in the house starts searching all of the rooms in the house, but they can't find her anywhere. My mom then singles out my other sister and asks her why she had lied about my sister's whereabouts. She claims she was being honest and that she had been listening to music. It's been about 2 hours since anyone has seen my sister. My mom goes outside to see if she can find her. Upon going outside, my mom tells me about the most horrifying thing she has ever seen. My sister is inside her car, with her face plastered to the window, wide-eyed, screaming. My mom said it was like a horror movie. Everyone had assumed she had somehow locked herself in the car. Not sure how a very intelligent 10-year-old girl would do that. Upon opening the door to the car and getting my sister out, my mom notices that she is not behaving normally and appears to be in some kind of a trance. They walk her inside and begin asking her questions about what had happened, but she does not respond to anything. She remains in this trance-like state for maybe an hour or 2, so my mother gives up and puts her to bed. In the morning, my sister appeared to be acting somewhat normal, but seemed to be shaken up. My mother then asks her how she ended up in the car, but she doesn't remember. She said she only remembered one thing. As she was locked in the car, she saw a man dressed all in black approach her. She said that she was terrified and tried to get out of the car. Then the man in black came closer and told her that he would let her out, but she would have to do something for him. He held a black rose up to the window and told her to come out so he could give it to her. After all of this, my sister did not remember anything. After hearing the story, my mom went outside to look around the car. To her amazement, she saw a trail of footsteps going from the car out past the house and into the surrounding forest. No one had been playing or walking around the area before then, according to my mom, so she seemed very disturbed about the tracks. We still don't know what to think of this, but my mother said that the look on my sister's face in the car was sincerely terrifying. I'm not sure what actually happened that night. If I'm not wrong, Colorado is also a hotspot for missing 411 cases. I am thankful that my sister did not become one of them, but maybe she saw something similar to what others have seen before the disappearance. Be me, about 14 years old at the time. Start feeling dead uncomfortable about a certain spot in my room. Won't step in the spot, look at the spot, etc. My cats both hate the spot as well. They will always step around it, or sometimes even hiss at it. Start to feel like there's something in that spot in my room just watching me. This continues for ages. Move to university. Things are good for a few days. Discover new spot. Hate that one too. But then, start having weird dreams. Awake in the early hours of the morning, nearly light out, can hear the seagulls. See weird black static figure stood in the spot. I can move, but I never leave my bed. Figure climbs on top of me and sticks his hands in my mouth and starts feeling my teeth. Nothing else. He just runs his fingers over my teeth for a few minutes. This continues for nearly a year. Move into house with new course mates. Nothing like it happens ever again. I'm 19 now, by the way. Be me, 5 to 6 years ago. Be in the woods, camping with friends. Remember a local legend about a big old abandoned house. Decide to try and find it. 3 to 4 hours of searching the area. Finally find it about 4 miles deeper into the woods from our campsite. House is falling apart, but the door is wide open. Wander around the downstairs with friends. Upstairs staircase is all torn up and rickety. Start hearing noises upstairs. Decide to investigate. Help give friend boost to second floor. Goes walking out of line of sight. Loud shrill scream from the direction he went. He books it back over the railing. Shipwrecks. Run vigorously. Screams follow us the whole way, about a mile from the house, when they finally stop. Dude, the fuck was that shit all about? Friend says, I opened the door and there was this big ass dog kind of thing, but it had a woman's face. It was just staring at the doorway when I opened it. Decide to take the 20-minute drive home when we get back to camp to get the Mini 14 as a team. Come back, campsite is shredded, and there is this nasty vomit-like stuff everywhere. Fuck this, going home. Go home, sleep on couch. Don't talk about it the next morning. We all just head to our separate domiciles. Be me. Be a security guard. Working at a factory overnight. They don't keep the place running on weekends, so need security to keep out stupid teenagers and drugged out bums. Be watching House of Cards on my phone. Watch beeps. Time to do my hourly sweep. Grab my flashlight and start to make the rounds. The factory is a steel house, mainly to make parts for Japanese cars. They melt steel down into these bars the size of telephone poles and store them for later use. Walking by this huge shelf where they keep said steel bars, all of a sudden I hear, clear as day, someone whisper, "Stop." I shine my flashlight around. I don't see anything around me at all. I take another step. I said stop. I get my shoulder grabbed from behind me. My blood runs as cold as ice. I hear creaking. All of a sudden, one of these huge steel bars comes crashing down on the concrete floor. It is so fucking loud. It misses me by less than a foot. I trip backwards, fall flat on my ass. I shine the flashlight around and I don't see anything. The place is pretty open. I sit there and stare at this steel bar that would have fucking crushed me completely. I swallow, shake it off, and walk back to my little office to call my boss and tell him what just happened. I leave out the part where my ass was saved by a ghost. I still think about this moment really often.